What is up, everybody? We are on day 45 of our Bible in a Year series. We are in Numbers and jumping into some exciting stuff today. It's very James Bond-esque. Not really. I mean, we are going to be talking about some spies, but not quite James Bond. A little better, if you will. But yeah, we are going to be talking about some spies, some report we get back from spies, and faithfulness of God. So we will jump straight into it. Numbers 13 is where we're at today. 13, 14, 15 is what we're going to be reading through. So jump straight in. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Send men to scout out the land of Canaan I am giving to the Israelites. Send one man who is a leader among them from each of their ancestral tribes." Moses sent them from the wilderness of Paran to the Lord's command. All the men were leaders in Israel. These were their names: Shemua, son of Zakur, from the tribe of Reuben; Shaphat, I thought that said Snapchat. Shaphat, son of Hori, from the tribe of Simeon; Caleb, son of Jephunneh, from the tribe of Judah; Igal, son of Joseph, from the tribe of Issachar; Hoshea, son of Nun, from the tribe of Ephraim; uh, Palti, son of Raphu, from the tribe of Benjamin; Gadiel, son of Saudi, from the tribe of Zebulun; Gadi, son of Susi, from the tribe of Manasseh; from the tribe of Joseph; Amil, son of Gamali, from the tribe of Dan; Sether, son of Michael, from the tribe of Asher; Nabi, son of Vopshi, from the tribe of Naphtali; Gul, son of Machai, from the tribe of Gad. These were the names of the men Moses sent to scout out the land, and Moses renamed Hoshea, son of Nun, Joshua. When Moses sent them to scout out the land of Canaan, he told them, "Go up this way to the Negev, then go up into the hill country, see what the land is like, and whether the people who live there are strong or weak, few or many. Is the land they live in good or bad? Are the cities they live in encampments or fortifications? Is the land fertile or unproductive? Are these trees in it? Are there trees in it or not? Be courageous, bring back some fruit from the land. It was the season for the first ripe grapes." So they went up and scouted out the land from the wilderness of Zin as far as Rehob, near the entrance of Hamath. They went up through the Negev and came to Hebron, where Ahiman, Sheshai, and Talmai, the descendants of Anak, were living. Hebron was built 7 years before Zoan in Egypt. When they came to Ishol Valley, they cut down a branch with a single cluster of grapes, which was carried on a pole by 2 men. They also took some pomegranates and figs. That place was called Ishol Valley because of the cluster of grapes the Israelites cut there. At the end of the 40 days, they returned from scouting out the land. So, something to bring up here. We don't know for sure. It said that this cluster of grapes had to be carried on a pole, right? So that means pretty massive in size. Now, there is some debate. Personally, I land on the side of there's some debate between whether or not this is literal or this is more poetic, just kind of emphasizing the idea that it was just really, really fertile land. Like, it was really, really good, right? Personally, I land on the side, I think it's more poetic than literal. They could be large grapes. Like, I have an issue with that necessarily. And I also, I don't know that it really matters all that much, whether it's literal or whether it's poetic. I don't think it really makes a difference There are some people that say like this has to be literal. I don't think it has to be. I kind of lean towards it not being, but I don't have any major issue with it being literal. If that's how you read it, that's fine. Verse 26. The men went back to Moses, Aaron, and the entire Israelite community in the wilderness of Paran at Kadesh. They brought back the report for them and the whole community, and they showed them the fruit of the land. They reported to Moses, "We went into the land where you sent us. Indeed, it is flowing with milk and honey." So here again, it's kind of that same language. It's flowing with milk and honey. Is there like actually like milk and honey like flowing? It's kind of flowery language. It's poetic language to give the push the idea that this is a very very good fertile land. This is really really a great place for them to be. So that's kind of one reason why I lean that way. And here is some of its fruit. However, the people living in the land are strong, and the cities are large and fortified. We also saw the descendants of Anak there. The Amalekites are living in the land of the Negev. The Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites live in the hill country, and the Canaanites live by the sea and along the Jordan. Then Caleb quieted the people in the presence of Moses and said, "Let's go up now and take possession of the land, because we can certainly conquer it." But the men who had gone up with him responded, "We can't attack the people because they are stronger than we are." So they gave a negative report to the Israelites about the land that they had scouted. "The land we passed through to explore is one that devours its inhabitants, and all the people we saw in it are men of great size. We even saw the Nephilim there, the descendants of Anak come from the Nephilim. To ourselves we seem like grasshoppers, and we must have seemed the same to them." So again, if you really think about that, hold on. If you really think about what they said there, they said, "To them we seem like grasshoppers." So how big is a grasshopper to you, right? Like, I mean, a grasshopper doesn't even come up over the top of your foot. So if you're, I mean, this would be like 1,000 feet tall. Would almost have to be, right? So it does seem to think it leans. I think lends some more credence to the idea that this is poetic literature. They are. It's being flowered up in order to get a point across. Now, whether that is by the people giving the report or the person writing later, um, again, I don't think it matters all that much, but just interesting to think about as we're reading this. Okay, verse 14. Then the whole community broke into loud cries, and the people wept that night. All the Israelites complained about Moses and Aaron, and the whole community told them, if only we had died in the land of Egypt, or if only we had died in this wilderness. Why is the Lord bringing us into this land to die by the sword? Our wives and children will become plunder. Wouldn't it be better for us to go back to Egypt?" So they said to one another, "Let's appoint a leader to go back to Egypt." So they're ready to overthrow Moses and put somebody else in place that's going to take them back to slavery. Then Moses and Aaron fell face down in front of the whole assembly of the Israelite community. Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, who were among those who scouted out the land, tore their clothes and said to the entire Israelite community, "The land we passed through and explored is an extremely good land. If the Lord is pleased with us, he will bring us into this land, a land flowing with milk and honey, and give it to us. Only don't rebel against the Lord, and don't be afraid of the people of the land, for we will devour them. Their protection has been removed from them, and the Lord is with us. Don't be afraid." While the whole community threatened to stone them, the glory of the Lord appeared to all the Israelites at the tent of meeting. The Lord said to Moses, "How long will these people despise me? How long will they not trust in me, despite all the signs I have performed among them? I will strike them with a plague and destroy them. Then I will make you into a greater and mightier nation than they are." I understand. Like it seems very clear to us on this side of it, but also we have to think like we probably do just as much stupid stuff. right? Like, to us, it doesn't seem like it's stupid, but anyone on the outside looking in could probably see that it's stupid. But God still is here for us. We still have a chance. We still have redemption provided through Jesus, and thank God for it. Okay, verse 13. But Moses replied to the Lord, the Egyptians will hear about it, for by your strength you brought up this people from them. They will tell it to the inhabitants of this land. They have heard that you, Lord, are among these people, how you, Lord, are seen face to face, how your cloud stands over them, and how you go before them in a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. If you kill this people with a single blow, the nations that have heard of your fame will declare, since the Lord wasn't able to bring this people into the land he swore to give them, he has slaughtered them in the wilderness. So now, may my Lord's power be magnified, just as you have spoken. The Lord is slow to anger and abounding in faithful love, forgiving iniquity and rebellion, but he will not leave the guilty unpunished, bringing the consequences of the father's iniquity on the children to the third and fourth generation. Please pardon the iniquity of this people in keeping with the greatness of your faithful love, just as you have forgiven them from Egypt until now. The Lord responded, I have pardoned them as you requested, yet as I live and as the whole earth is filled with the Lord's glory, none of the men who have seen my glory and the signs I performed in Egypt and in the wilderness, and have tested me these 10 times and did not obey me, will ever see the land I swore to give their ancestors. None of these who have despised me will see it. But since my servant Caleb has a different spirit and has remained loyal to me, I will bring him into the land where he has gone, and his descendants will inherit it. Since the Amalekites and Canaanites are living in the lowlands, turn back tomorrow and head for the wilderness in the direction of the Red Sea. Then the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, how long must I endure this evil community that keeps complaining about me? I have heard the Israelites' complaints that they make against me. Tell them, as I live, this is the Lord's declaration. I will do to you exactly as I heard you say. Your corpses will fall in the wilderness, all of you who were registered in the census, the entire number of you, 20 years old or more. Because you have complained about me, I swear that none of you will enter the land I promised to settle you in, except Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and Joshua, son of Nun. I will bring your children, whom you said would become plunder, into the land you rejected, and they will enjoy it. But as for you, your corpses will fall in the wilderness. Your children will be shepherds in the wilderness for 40 years and bear the penalty for your acts of unfaithfulness until all your corpses lie scattered in the wilderness. You will bear the consequences of your iniquities 40 years based on the number of the 40 days that you scouted the land, a year for each day. You will know my displeasure. I, the Lord, have spoken. I swear that I will do this to the entire evil community that has conspired against me. They will come to an end in the wilderness, and there they will die. So the men Moses sent to scout out the land, and who returned and incited the entire community to complain about him by spreading a negative report about the land. Those men who spread the negative report about the land were struck down by the Lord. Only Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, remained alive of those men who went to scout out the land. When Moses reported these words to all the Israelites, the people were overcome with grief. They got up early the next morning and went up to the ridge of the hill country, saying, Let's go to the place the Lord promised, for we were wrong. But Moses responded, Why are you going against the Lord's command? It won't succeed. Don't go, because the Lord is not among you, and you will be defeated by your enemies. The Amalekites and Canaanites are right in front of you, and you will fall by the sword. The Lord won't be with you, since you have turned from following him. But they dared to go up the ridge of the hill country, even though the ark of the Lord's covenant and Moses did not leave the camp. Then the Amalekites and Canaanites who lived in that part of the hill country came down, attacked them, and routed them as far as Hormah. So this kind of goes into something I've said a couple times. I think I've said it in this series. I know I've said it in other videos, but God only provides for his plan, and God always provides for his plan, right? So when it was God's intention for them to go into this promised land, God was going to provide a way for them. They were going to defeat the Amalekites and the Canaanites. But when that didn't happen, when they rebelled against God and God told them, this is still the plan, but we're going to go this long way, none of you are going to make it into the promised land, God wasn't with them. I think it's an important lesson. Chapter 15, the Lord instructed Moses, speak to the Israelites and tell them, when you enter the land I'm giving you to settle in, and you make a food offering to the Lord from the herd or flock, either a burnt offering or a sacrifice to fulfill a vow, or as a freewill offering, or at your appointed festivals, to produce a pleasing aroma for the Lord. The one presenting his offering to the Lord is also to present a grain offering of 2 quarts of fine flour mixed with a quart of oil. Prepare a quart of wine as a drink offering with the burnt offering or sacrifice of each lamb. If you prepare a grain offering with a ram, it is to be 4 quarts of fine flour mixed with a third of a gallon of oil. Also present a third of a gallon of wine for a drink offering as a pleasing aroma to the Lord. If you prepare a young bull as a burnt offering or as a sacrifice to fulfill a vow, or as a fellowship offering to the Lord, a grain offering of 6 quarts of fine flour mixed with 2 quarts of oil is to be presented with the bull. Also present 2 quarts of wine as a drink offering. It is a food offering, a pleasing aroma to the Lord. This is to be done for each ox, ram, lamb, or goat. This is how you are to prepare each of them, no matter how many. Every Israelite is to prepare these things in this way when he presents a food offering as a pleasing aroma to the Lord. When an alien resides with you or someone else is among you and wants to prepare a food offering as a pleasing aroma to the Lord, he is to do exactly as you do throughout your generations. The assembly is to have the same statute for both you and the resident alien as a permanent statute. Throughout your generations, you and the alien will be alike before the Lord. The same law and the same ordinance will apply to both you and the alien who resides with you. The Lord instructed Moses, speak to the Israelites and tell them, after you enter the land where I am bringing you, you are to offer a contribution to the Lord when you eat from the food of the land. You are to offer a loaf from your first batch of dough as a contribution. Offer it just like a contribution from the threshing floor. Throughout your generations, you are to give the Lord a contribution from the first batch of your dough. When you sin unintentionally and do not obey all these commandments the Lord has spoke to Moses, all that the Lord has commanded you through Moses from the day the Lord issued the commandments and onward throughout your generations, and if it was done unintentionally, without the community's awareness, the entire community is to prepare 1 young bull for a burnt offering as a pleasing aroma to the Lord, with its grain offering and drink offering to the regulation, and 1 male goat as a sin offering. The priests will then make atonement for the entire Israelite community so that they may be forgiven. For the sin was unintentional, they are to bring their offering, a food offering to the Lord, and their sin offering before the Lord for their unintentional sin. The entire Israelite community and the alien who resides among them will be forgiven, since it happened to all the people unintentionally. If one person sins unintentionally, he is to present a year-old female goat as a sin offering. The priest will then make atonement before the Lord on behalf of the person who acts in error, sinning unintentionally, and when he makes atonement for him, he will be forgiven. You are to have the same law for the person who acts in error, whether he is an Israelite or an alien who resides among you. Finally, whether native or resident alien blasphemes the Lord, that person is to be cut off from his people. He will certainly be cut off because he has despised the Lord's word and broken his command. His guilt remains on him. While the Israelites were in the wilderness, they found a man gathering wood on the Sabbath day. Those who found him gathering wood brought him to Moses, Aaron, and the entire community. They placed him in custody because it had not been decided what should be done to him. The Lord told Moses, the man is to be put to death. The entire community is to stone him outside the camp. So the entire community brought him outside the camp and stoned him to death as the Lord had commanded Moses. Okay, now, this seems harsh, right? I mean, he was just gathering wood on the Sabbath. But again, this speaks to the holiness of God, the severity of sin. We don't have these same restrictions, and that is due to the sacrifice of Jesus. Jesus did not come, Jesus says he didn't come to abolish the law, but to fulfill the law, right? So Jesus came and did this. He fulfilled the law perfectly because we couldn't do it. He lived a perfect life, and then he died the death that we should have died. What we deserve for our sin, he took that upon himself. This seems very severe. It seems like an overreaction. But this goes to the heart of this, it shows we have an improper understanding of the holiness of God and an improper understanding of the severity of sin. Verse 37, the Lord said to Moses, speak to the Israelites and tell them that throughout their generations they are to make tassels for the corners of their garments and put a blue cord on the tassel of each corner. These will serve as tassels for you to look at so that you may remember all the Lord's commands and obey them and not prostitute yourselves by following your own heart and your own eyes. This way you will remember and obey all my commands and be holy to your God. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord your God. Okay, that should be it as far as the reading goes. So, interesting stuff. We see they're like at the edge of the promised land, and they once again didn't trust God. They wanted to do their own way. They wanted to go back and go to a completely different plan. Go back to where God rescued them from, right? But because they weren't willing to do God's plan and do it God's way, God's still going to get them around to where they're supposed to be. But now it's going to be the people that did not rebel. God, I mean, he's not moving on from the Israelites, but he is moving on from that generation, with the exception of Caleb and Joshua. So I think it goes to show the importance of following what God wants us to do. All right, let's get into the questions. Question 1. What can we learn from the differing reports of the spies about the importance of perspective in our faith journeys? So this question, the first thing that pops in my head is a very, very cliche social media type post. Like, it's just something that you would see that someone would post. I've seen posts like this several times, but it's don't tell God how big your problem is. Tell your problem how big your God is, or something along those lines. And it is very cliche. It is very like positive, happy-go-lucky, makes you feel good type thing. But there is a nugget of truth to it, I think. Not necessarily telling your problem how big God is, but your focus is on not the fact that you have this big problem, but the fact that you have a God that is bigger than the problem. I think that changes things a lot, just having proper perspective as far as understanding God can do anything. If God's told you to do something, the only thing that's stopping that from happening is your obedience, right? We see in the New Testament, Paul is told he's going to go to Rome. He's going to talk to Caesar. And even on the way, he gets shipwrecked and it's on this island. And while he's on the island, he's gathering wood, and the snake comes out and bites him. And everyone expects him to die. And Paul just like, it bites him and he just shakes it off. Doesn't matter. Like he's got the mindset. It does not matter what happens to me. God has told me to go talk to Caesar. I'm on my way to talk to Caesar. I'm going to make it to talk to Caesar. He's made up in his mind that is going to happen. And so nothing that happens to him is going to stop that from happening. Now, we don't see in the Bible if Paul made it or not, but there's some extra biblical evidence that suggests he did make it. It actually seems to be the case that Paul and Peter actually both were there in front of Caesar at around the same time. Paul was beheaded, and Peter was crucified upside down because he said he was unworthy to be crucified in the same manner which his Lord was crucified. There's pretty good evidence, extra biblical evidence for that. So, I think perspective has a huge role in our everyday lives. Question 2. How does the response of the Israelites to the spies' report challenge us to consider our own reactions to obstacles and challenges in life? I think it can make us question our reaction to obstacles and challenges, but I also think it can make us question who we are allowing to speak into our lives, or who we are giving that level of influence over us, right? The level of being able to speak into you at a point where they can actually sway your opinion drastically. I think that is, for me, that's the biggest takeaway from that specific thing. Okay. Question 3. In what ways can we cultivate a spirit of faith and trust in God, even when faced with daunting circumstances as seen in these chapters? We've touched on this a little bit already, and I'm going to keep going back to it. You will continue to have opportunity to trust God, and the more you trust God, the more you have opportunity to trust God, and the easier it gets. You just got to keep going with it. So, I think that's it for today. Appreciate everyone watching, listening all the way to this point. If you're still here, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. That all helps. Also, spread the word. This has been a blessing to you. Word of mouth is the best way the podcast spread. So you can spread that to others. Get them listening. They can start on today's. They can start on day 1 and work their way up. They can start on today's, they can start on day 1 and work their way up. There's really no wrong way to do it. But if this has been a blessing to you, please pass it on to others. And let's get more people involved and just continue spreading the gospel and encouraging people to get in and read their Bibles every day. And that's it. I will see you tomorrow. God bless.